just like me, I thought the exact same way. Life sucked. It was hard. And there's a better way to move forward. And we can break through that limitation that we have and truly see the light on the other side.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, guys, it is my honor to welcome our guests because they're coming with a couple of things expensive in my eyes. Time, 24 hours has been offered to every one of us. What we do with our 24 hours will tell me a lot about you. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It created Willie. It gave him some stuff that we want access to. And in order for him to give us and allow us access to that, he must become vulnerable. And so we want to honor him for coming and allowing his vulnerability before us so that we can have access to his wisdom, his knowledge, his insight, the stuff that he gained while he went through his journey. Willie, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Ken, thank you for having me on.
It's an honor, man. As I mentioned to you, I believe that there's a couple pillars, if you will, to our journey. The first, introduction to self, and then there's this one that is where we serve mankind. And my question that I love to toss to people right off the back, man, get straight to it, as they say, is how do you serve mankind?
What a good question. I serve mankind by helping adult dyslexics and be a resource for them. So I grew up as a dyslexic, diagnosed in the first grade, and a dyslexic, it deals with your processing of how you take in information, process it, and then how you communicate it outward. And for me, that happened in the realm of reading and speaking. And so throughout school and going through life, people bullied me, and it was sad and lonely until there was a moment about halfway through college to where I thought, this thing called dyslexia, this thing called life, is it really as bad as people sometimes say it is?
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't think so. So I'm going to start looking at the other side. So I looked at the other side, and what I saw was empathy. What I saw was thinking outside of the box. These were skills and strengths that came with the struggle that I had. They are the things of light. It's the things of being able to communicate with people in my own way. And from there, I could either decide to think about the bad things that happened, which I did that most of my younger life. And I'm like, didn't really serve me, or I could think of the good things. And so I chose to think of the good things. And then as I continued on that journey, I wanted to serve the dyslexic community. I wanted to serve people who had the neurodivergent community of these mental blockage that people see or tell themselves all the time, whether it's ADHD, autism, whatever it is, to truly help them out, see that just like me, I thought the exact same way. Life sucked. It was hard. And there's a better way to move forward. And we can break through that limitation that we have and truly see the light on the other side. So the way that I serve is I just help more people to see that every single day.
I'm glad that I was actually anticipating this conversation because I have a couple of friends. I know someone, the dark side of that, if you will. And I want to get into your approach because there's a lot of folks out there. There are a lot of children that are misdiagnosed because of that and put on drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was crazy back in the early 90s and late 90s and thousands when they were just punishing these children by giving them all kinds of drugs and not looking into some of the things that you talked about. One of our customs here, Will, is to go back. I like to go back. You mentioned a little about it. The beginning of our beginnings, I call it. Maybe usually with this group of people for the first 16, 18 years of our life, and we call that group family. In this location, we're going to learn about our education, communication skills, behaviors. We're going to learn our beliefs, mindsets, all of these things. Trauma happens there, sometimes in the house, sometimes outside of the home, but trauma usually finds its way there and enters our life. What was your family unit like?
Family unit life was very supportive and loving. So I had two amazing parents who, my dad, what he does for work is that he helps out people with, I don't know the right word to use, but people with special needs, people who have challenges. He helps them be able to find work. And I think I get that kind of service aspect from him because growing up and job shadowing him and going and seeing what he's doing, it's like he gave back to the community, and he doesn't make that much from it. But
Yeah.
because of the support from my mom, who is a very well-educated individual, she has a master's degree and everything, and still chose to be our mom, stay
Yeah.
at home and teach our kids. She raised 5 of us amazingly, and each of us are doing our own thing. And there's just a lot of love, a lot of support from the family. Outside the home, not so much growing up, but inside the home, it was a really great, safe space for us to be able to grow, support, and really just see the example of leading the serve.
That is awesome picture where the family should be that support, that safe zone, if you will. Outside is always supposedly be the crazy place where all the nuts and all the hardship should take place. Talk to us about some of those hardship because these are the formative years. The interaction with those outside of family are going to impact your belief system and then starting to impact you as an individual. That will cause certain behaviors, if you will, for you to start adapting as you're now going to be moving through outside of life, where you're coming out of your protective zone and you're heading into your unprotected zone. How did you function within that unprotected zone?
There actually 2 instances come up. The first was back in the 1st grade. I said that I was diagnosed in the 1st grade. And also in the 1st grade, I remember we were on the playground. All of us kids were just having fun and we were playing tag. Someone tagged me and I was running around, and there was this girl, and I thought she was cute back then, that I just like, you're the next target. So we're running around and I'm chasing her and she's running away. And then she jumped up onto the playground to try to get away. And as she did, I accidentally tripped on the wood chips or whatever it was, fell down. And while I fell down, my hand extended and I swiped and I accidentally pulled down her pants. And she obviously had like this scared look on her face, like, what the heck? So she pulled him up, took her friend, went inside to grab a teacher. I'm sitting there on the wood chips, and I'm thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was a mistake. I tripped and I accidentally swiped down. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. A couple of minutes go by, teachers come out, they find me, and one of the teachers points her finger at me and said, "Did you pull down her pants?" Pointing to the other girl. And I said, "Yes, I did." And before I could explain anything, they grabbed my hand, and that's what they did back then. They grabbed my hand, brought me inside, and I lost recess for the rest of the week. And in my little brain, I didn't realize this till later, but in my little brain, it started this track record of, even though it was a mistake, I still get punished. And so I need to not be raising my voice and sharing what I'm thinking. Fast forward a couple years to the 4th grade, we're all standing on a podium, a stage, as the whole grade, ready to sing to our parents. And this was during the practice, not the actual thing. While we're practicing, we sing the song and it was great. At the very end, it was about a minute before the bell rang, and the teacher said, "Who in here wants to sing the song one last time?" In my head, I'm thinking, it's a minute before the bell. We all have to walk back to class, get our stuff, go to the bus, and so that we can go home. And if we don't get there in time, the bus is going to leave and I'm going to have to call my parents. So when the teacher asked the question, I said no. And at the exact same time, all the other students around me said yes. I don't know if anyone has ever been in that situation to where you have such a differing opinion than everyone else, but it felt like a spotlight hit me. And
Yeah.
the kids didn't move, but it felt like there's just like this gap that started
Yeah.
opening up. The teacher looked at me and said, "What did you say?"
Mm.
I looked around. I said, "No." All the other students said, "Yes." I'm looking around. I said, "No." And so the teacher pointed her finger and said, "You come sit right here until we're done." So I had the walk of shame, you could say, when I
Yeah.
walking down, sat by the teacher. And back in the old days where they had those kind of dunce hats,
Yeah. The dance hats. I remember that.
I felt like I had one. And I felt like the other kids were laughing at me. And it was another moment where it solidified this thing of, other people aren't going to understand what I have to say, so I'm going to stop sharing what I have to say. And there was
Those are
these,
some powerful stories, Willie. I mean, for a young individual at that age to experience, and most definitely will begin to form a certain perception in that individual that will walk with them for a long time until you have to go back and face it and start dismantling that, because that seed that was planted there, it does bear fruit and it manifests in all kinds of ways. As you're heading out into college, man, that area, and you have, this is again, moving as this program that is already set for us, high school and college and so forth. But this college area is where we're going to make one of our major decisions, if you will, as to because this is going to guide us for many years. Our profession and our lifestyle, all this type of stuff starts from right there. What field of study did you pick and why did you pick that?
So I had two fields of studies, but the first one I went into was accounting. So I went into accounting for the first year and a half that I was at college. It was great. I knew how to do maths. I was going to be sitting in the cubicle, didn't have to talk to anybody. And then as the year went on and as I got engaged and got married, then I switched over to my second degree, which I finished, which was business management. And it was so interesting that as you're bringing up kind of just like that change happening in college from growing up, accounting, it just felt comfortable. I felt like I was able to just sit there. I have my laptop in front of me, just plug in numbers, didn't have to talk to anybody. People could come to me and say, hey, here's my tax forms, or hey, here's my budget that I need you to balance out. And I'm like, cool, awesome. That was it. That was all the interaction. And over that year and a half, that's when I met my beautiful wife, not wife at the time, but beautiful wife. We were engaged, and she started to build my confidence up. She started to talk to me about things that I wanted, and not just the regular questions of what do you do, what, and the undervaluing, the undercover question of that is what value can you give me? She was asking like, what things are you passionate about? What's your story? And if you didn't have any limitations on your connections or money or what people thought about you, like what would you do? And it opened me up to her in this realm of like, I don't really want to be an accountant. I I can do it. I can absolutely do it. But what I really like, I like the business aspect. I like strategy. I love any game that we sit down and it might take a couple hours, but it's just like full strategy, like Monopoly or ones like that. And so she started opening this whole world of it was about what other people thought most of my life. And now she was teaching me, but it's your life. So now that now that you've had this like awakening, you could say, what are you going to do about it? And that was kind of like another one of those first parts of I want to people.
Wow, that's a beautiful encounter, a gift that you were given via this your wife. I mean, what a strong woman, actually, a strong individual that would be standing there and say, "Hey, what about you? All these things that you're dealing with, that's fine, but what about you? What excites you? What causes you to smile and grin when you think about it and power you up, if you will?" That is a beautiful gift, really, that she was able to offer to you. Now, you had mentioned in the onset of our conversation, it was in college that you came to the awakening of, wait a minute, what are the good sides, the good aspects of this thing that I've been walking with my entire life, that has been a source of trauma, if you will, a source of negative conversation with myself, a source of all of these things, negative belief. All of these things were deposited, and I know how that happens. It's a reel to reel. Back in the day, we call it a reel to reel, where you plug it in and just run and run. And that's the mind, and you're actually programming yourself. And I tell people, we meditate all day long. We just don't, we think meditation is sitting like a monk and cross legs and all that kind of crazy stuff, but that's not meditation. Meditation is what you are meditating or thinking on, and you are walking around all day long thinking about something on this reel to reel, programming yourself all day and you don't even know it. So really, you're programming yourself. But here's someone who is now allowing you and awakening you to you. How did that change, as you said, that new perspective as to looking at this, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, really, a monster that you have created in your life? How did you begin to look at the good parts of that monster?
It happened back when in 2018 is when I started loving this self-development, this learning personal growth and everything, because I came across a statistic, and it wasn't motivational or anything. It simply said 95% of CEOs read 50 or more books a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it'd be pretty cool to be a CEO. But ain't no way I'm reading 50 books, especially when I maybe read an average of one book at the time.
Yeah.
But I wanted it. It was something that I wanted. A little time after that, I went to a mastermind group and a networking group. And I was so excited because my friend invited me. I was starting to learn about this whole personal growth. And so I showed up 30 minutes early, so excited for it. I had my black suit on. I had my red paisley tie. I was like ready to go. And I sat in my car till about 2 minutes beforehand because I was so nervous about going in and meeting people. But then finally I got out of the car and I walked in. And when I walked into the room, I felt so out of place because everybody else in there, they had the t-shirts, they had the polos, they had the jeans wearing it. Nobody was wearing a suit like I was. I was the best dressed person in that room, but they were all entrepreneurs. They were all business owners. They were doing the thing in which I wanted to do. And as the group started going, and then about halfway through, we split off into smaller groups. And in those smaller groups, people started talking about their business. And it got to me, and I felt, for lack of a better word, I felt that monster coming back up.
Yeah.
Because I was stumbling, trying to say, I'm new here. I'm just trying to start a business. Don't really know what I want, but just starting this whole journey that I'm working on. This mantra came up and said, who do you think you are? Who are you to be in a room like this with all of these successful people? Just like back in my younger days, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody is going to think that you have anything good to say. And even if you do, you're going to push it away because that's just who you are. And these thoughts kept coming through my mind. And even ones of that, and it continued to escalate to be like, Willie, you're a fraud. And you better get out before other people realize it themselves that you're a fraud. And as these thoughts kept coming on, the meeting kept going. And as I was dealing with this monster, finally the keynote speaker came up. And they came up, and I was half listening, but the room went quiet, and the speaker asked a question. And that, why, I don't know what happened. It was a weird moment because everyone went quiet, and it felt like the monster also went quiet to like look in the direction of the speaker. The speaker asked the question, and they said, who is ready to level up their life? And like an automatic reaction, my hand shot up into the air. I've never done that before. I was always the person who hesitated raising their hand, who would have the answer on their sheet in school, but would wait 10, 15 seconds. Then another student would answer the exact same thing that I had. And I'd start beating myself up and being like, what the heck? Why didn't I raise my hand and answer that? But this time my hand shot up because at least at the barest of minimum, I had an inner desire to be better. And it was that inner desire that that started taking roots, just like a tree growing. It was something that got planted, and that desire helped turn it to dedication. And that dedication then led to me doing different things and back to reading books. I knew I couldn't read 50 books, but maybe 12. A book a month didn't seem too bad. And as I broke it down, it was a self-help book. Average is 300 pages. Mm-hmm. So do 300 divided by about 30 days each month. You get 10 pages. So reading 10 pages a day, you read a book a month to read 12 books a year. That's it. 10 pages. I thought I could do that. And so I wrote down on a little note card 1 to 12 that I could put the books on, then walked to my bookshelf, grabbed the smallest self-development book I could, little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. Opened the book and then started reading. And it was that inner desire in that moment of a room full of entrepreneurs, as well as the action I started taking for the things that I loved and that I wanted to do, that started to push away this monster that was within me. The traumas that I had in the past, the moments to where I was quiet, it started to get pushed away, and probably not pushed away. It was more like it lived in darkness. Yeah. I was starting to turn on the light.
Yeah. I hope you guys listened to that. That was a beautiful story that really laid out. And within that explanation, if you will, so much wisdom, so much insights. The reason why I love doing this podcast is I want all those listeners to realize that all of us are just regular people. We're just like you. But there was a point in time in our life when we made a decision that changed everything. Because, and sometimes, as Willie was saying, we do it, we're in a state of fearfulness, but yet our hands will go up. Our voice will crack in that state of fearfulness. Something happens that will cause us to react because of the wanting and the longing that we have that is deep inside. And many of you that have that longing that is deep inside, put your hands up, man, and begin your steps. As Willie said, the first thing that you make that decision and you put your hands up. But what happens to you, and I believe, and I tell people that I believe it's the subconscious mind when that individual makes the decision, because it's usually, it happens and before you know it, your regular mind, your normal mind is, well, what happened? Why did I put my hand up? Why did I open my mouth? And it has that conversation, but the subconscious being pushed you out there. And when he does and makes a decision, there is a degree of synchronicity really that happens on the outside, because I believe that pulls energy and it sets out this a power, if you will, that causes things to manifest what he just expressed. And we call that discipline. We began to become, it's amazing how we become disciplined. It's amazing how situations start coming up into our life that cause us to make this decision that will produce this outcome. I mean, it is a beautiful thing, but it still needs you to put your hands up. Still needs you to open your mouth with that crackling voice and allow yourself the ability to change. Talk to us, Willie, as you began to incorporate it, because it pushes you to do the things. And you brought it down to a level that you can, they tell you when you have a project, bring it down to the minute level, and then you start your project and you go from there. I came out of corporate America, and that's how they trained me to deal with problems and situations. And you began to make it happen, as they say. What did that look like? Because it takes time. I mean, it takes a while to put it all together and to end up where you are today. But how did that synchronicity begin to happen? You have your wife, beautiful support, change the trajectory of your life and your being. You have you now standing up with the hands up, and you're now taking the steps to move. What did it look like? Where did it begin to take you, Willie?
It began to take me because I had my wife, started to have myself back again.
Yeah.
And from when first time of reading that one book, it then led to reading 12 books and then 40 books and then 50 books in a year. And then now I'm able to go through 60 plus books a year. And that happened over the span of like a while to be able to
Yeah.
build that habit. Even though like it was like a sprint, a burst in the beginning, it still was like, okay, once I reach there, am I done? Because a lot of people that I talk with, and I still think about this myself sometimes, is when we set a goal or something we want to achieve, we think of it as like a checkbox
Mm-hmm.
of once I get there, I'm going to check it off. It should never be that way. The way that it could be is when you are going after something that you love, something you want to achieve, you can check it off and everything. And you should also be focused on the individual that you're going to become during that process. A lot of people want to be millionaires. They always say like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be able to have all this money. It's like, awesome. It's never about the money. It's about the person who you're going to become when you are
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
millionaire, when you have $1 million. And so this journey of starting to read started evolving. And then a couple years after that, we had our first kid. I'm a father of 3 girls and another one on the way. And our first
Congratulations,
kid,
man.
thank you. First kid, back in 2020 when all the crazy pandemic stuff happened, it keep pushing me forward and started showing me how to be more of a father and how to prioritize. Continuing down, as I was going down that path, I wanted to share my insights more because now I was reading a lot. I was gaining a lot of knowledge, but I wasn't applying it in the way that I wanted. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
share more.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to inspire other people. So I created an Instagram account in which literally I would just post thoughts that I had. I would post motivational quotes that I'd find, and I'd just start sharing. I wanted to get in the habit of sharing, whether it was just a quote that I found. And I continued to share, and that Instagram account then turned into me starting to meet one-on-one with some of my friends who were just like, Willie, you're in this motivational stuff. I'm going through something. Can you help me out? I said,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we'd literally go to like McDonald's or something, sit at the table and just have a good chat for an hour, hour and a half. To which I remember one of my amazing friends, his name's Devin. We met at McDonald's, and afterwards he said, Willie, I've known you since we were in college, because that's where we first met. I've known you since then. It's about 4 years later. And he said, you've mastered the skill of listening. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, during this whole time, you weren't trying to tell me the things that you've done. You were just listening to me. You were listening to my problems. And even when we weren't talking about problems, I could just tell that you were fully engaged, that you were just, like, your whole body and your whole spirit was there with me. And I want to say thank you for it. And I said, dude, that means a lot. Thank you for sharing that. And that was another moment where I'm like, I think I have this skill called listening. I think I'm able to listen and observe with people, which then I think back to my childhood and I'm like, because I was so quiet, it
Quiet.
actually gave me the passage to be able to observe and sit
Yeah.
there and be able to listen. So I'm like, cool, that's another advantage I can start bringing out. Continue down the road, I wanted to continue to share my message. So I started to hit record on my phone and record this dude who had braces, who didn't have the best hairstyle, who looked, I'll be honest, whenever I see my old videos, I cringe a little bit, just like how much I was trying to be like a certain persona,
Yeah.
but I was doing it. I was
Yeah.
hitting the record button and I was sharing it with people. And that continued to lead to being a speaker and speaking in front of people. Whether it was in front of fifth graders, who I've been several times to. My sister-in-law, she wonderfully at the beginning helped me to share my insights with fifth graders, to college professors who let me come to their class and share my message, to now becoming an award-winning speaker, which is a 7-year journey
Yeah.
of doing that, as well as adding me working on my writing and becoming an author and being able to also start a business specifically for adult dyslexics, because dyslexics and people who are neurodivergent, they have a lot of resources in school and as a teenager, and it's great. But once you hit 18, you're almost on your own. Like there's almost nothing out there for adults who are struggling with dyslexia, ADHD, autism, so many different areas. And so I thought my experience is in that field. I've lived with it for 3 decades.
Yeah.
I want to share that. And so it was like one by one by one, these things of memories as a child of I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be a writer, to then as I'm in discussion with my wife, I'm wanting to not be an accountant, but then go into business and then start my own business and help out communities and volunteering. My wife is a type 1 diabetic. And one thing that we do to give back to that community is every year I volunteer for a whole week, no phones, no computers, no nothing, with diabetic teenagers as a camp counselor. And so it's like, as it just continued forward, things started to come up. And when they came up in thought, my job was to shorten that from thought into action. And the shorter I got from when I had that thought to actually starting to do it and putting into this world, I think the wonderful God above helped me, just gave me more and more ability and blessings to do it, because he knew I'd do it.
Yeah.
He knew I'd share. And so it's just been great. It's always humbling.
Powerful.
I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that come my way. It's the trust that I've built with myself, with my wife, and with the wonderful
Yeah.
God above, that I'm able to be in this position of the things I've accomplished. And man, I can't wait. I can't wait to what I'm going to be blessed with in the future.
And it all started with the shaky guy.
Yeah, shaky guy raising his hand just
Yeah.
because he
And
had that inner desire.
I tell people, you see where Willie is and how he started in a room with By the way, that's like a corporate America power move you had there with the black and the red paisley tie, man. I had one of those too. That was a power move, bro. Right from the beginning, you dressed like the power broker as you stood up, and you had your power corporate America look, and put your hand up nervously, and look where he is today. Everyone has a beginning, and don't despise the beginning, and don't. Most people are looking at it and saying, "Well, he's doing this, and I can't do that." Yeah, but he started somewhere else. He started a long way differently. And you need to look at that first before you look at where he at. So the fact that he began is where you need to look at how did he do it? And he did it by putting his hand up and being nervous in a meeting. And so you guys can do it. We're going to provide all of his links so that you can get to him. I want you guys to get to him. Any of you that are suffering from any kind of dyslexia, any of those topics that they talk about with the kids and the adults, we're going to make sure that you guys have access to Willie's books and all of his things so you can get in. You need to, because you need a support system to move through your life. All of us need to have one. And talk to us. I want to ask you this question, Willie. I mean, we've been chatting for a while, and I really want to ask you this because there's a lot of those folks that are nervous because of all kinds of labels that people have put on them. You have a mic in your hand. This mic really is connected to 8+ billion people on this planet. What would you say to us?
You are living your own journey, and you are writing your own book. Don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's 152. Each of us are in our own spot in our own book, and you get to choose what's written in it. I chose for myself to write good things. I had two plus decades of things I could call problems and challenges and obstacles, but that was simply the beginning of my journey. That was my origin story.
Yeah.
And now I get to write what my kids call this superhero dad. I get to write about the hero Willie of the individual who I see as myself, who gets to go out and share his light, gets to share his love and inspiration, gets to share his gratitude and hope, and really help people focus on time, because that's truly all that we have. I get to focus on that. So for those who are in those moments of challenge and can't get out of it, just remember it's all about the small decisions that we decide to make each day. And if we are better than we are yesterday, then that is enough. We get to write our book, and we get to determine the end of our story. How are you wanting to write that story?
Man, I love that. I don't care where you're at and how dark it is. Your story doesn't end until you end it. You can rewrite all of it. I interviewed so many different people that have been through some hard times. I spoke to one lady recently who was institutionalized from 16 to 18 and all the trauma that she went through. And her advice was the same thing. Just don't give up, man. Just write a new story. And so I want to challenge all of you that are listening to us. I want to challenge you along with the challenge that Willie sent out to you just now. Don't give up. Believe in yourself. You are this powerful individual that has been placed on this earth to overcome everything that has come into your life. There would be no resilience without something to become resilience from. And so you have the power and you have the capability, you have the strength, you have the knowledge, you have the insight to become resilient. Believe in you because we believe in you. You guys need to reach Willie, talk to us, and we will walk with you. Willie has told the story about his friends coming and talk to him. He has the skill of listening, and we would want to listen to you because we want to hear you, and we want you to discover you. Willie, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. I enjoyed this one, man. I really did.
Yeah. Ken, thank you for giving us both this opportunity to share light with more people.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.